Welcome to How to Be a Humane Leader Without Losing Your Job. In this podcast, we dive into compassionate leadership in today's fast-paced business environment. With our experience and insights, we'll help you lead with heart while securing your career. Join us for engaging conversations and practical advice to elevate your leadership skills and make a real difference. I'm your host, Chris Ollerking, a Fortune 100 IT leader, alongside Roberto Torres, a seasoned startup engineering leader. Today, we're discussing, are humane leaders born or are they made? Well, hey, Roberto, how you doing? What do you think?
Well, first of all, I'm great. I trust that you are the same. And this is the sad topic that um, that maybe some people will think that they were born or they were made or they don't know. But I think it's going to be a good topic.
Yeah, we definitely, I have very mixed feelings about it because our podcast itself, to a degree, suggests that leaders are made because we're coaching people and saying, you can improve your leadership and be a more humane leader. So you're being made by listening to our podcast and getting advice from previous leaders. Although I'm kind of leaning more towards, in general, I think leaders are born and they're just customized by training personally. But what are your thoughts?
I totally agree with you regarding the purpose of this podcast and how people might be from the made, the human later to the made side of this. But let's go to what is humanity. There are two kind of people who will rise as leaders. Rise either because they were born and since their childhood have become a leader towards what they are today as adults, and people like me, which I was made to become a leader and then to become a humane leader. So I think this goes by the situations that we live, but most important, that we acknowledge that we have to become leaders when certain situations arise. And I don't mean, oh my God, this situation is going through. I had to become a leader. No, it has to be, organic, natural, no?
Yeah, there are certainly I can think of more kind of like non-work situations where you step up and rise to become a leader. There's a sudden traffic accident or something and everybody's running around in panic and somebody steps forwards and says, "Hey, you call 911. You stop traffic coming from the other direction. And they don't have authority over anybody at that accident scene, but that's a situation where there's chaos. Nobody's leading anything until the police and the fire department, the emergency services show up. That person, starts leadership in a vacuum because there wasn't anything going on. Those are kind of what my own personal experience of coming upon accident seeds and things like that. Those are typically more your born leaders. In other words, typical things through their whole life. They've always been the person who stepped up and made the suggestion, made the determination of what they're going to do. And when I think back to my own childhood and things like that, more often than not, my group of friends would be, "Hey, Chris, what are we going to do today?" So it was a humane leader, right? I wasn't ordering everybody, "Hey, everybody, we're going to the pool today. Everybody, we're going to ride our bikes today." I wasn't ordering, but frequently friends would ask, what are we going to do today? That wasn't all the time, but I think that's where you kind of get this born leadership style starts to evolve because people look up to you for some particular reason. And for my situation was I was a larger child. I was taller, always at the back of the line in school because I was one of the tallest kids. So there were just some innate born things that people looked up to me for leadership, and then maybe I learned some leadership skills through that. But primarily, I was kind of a born leader at a young age. In my very first corporate leadership, I didn't apply for anything. They actually approached me and said, Chris, we really like all the things that you're doing as this individual contributor in the business. You're very forward thinking. You've got one of the best in this situation was a networking setup that I had done for one of the departments, and we'd like you to lead our much larger department with a staff of a couple of people. Didn't seek out the job at all, but they were like, you're a born leader, and we'd like you to come do that. And I remember my first performance review with my new director. I was really nervous because I'm like, really didn't know about being a boss. And he said, you're a born leader. And I still have a copy of that performance review. You took to leadership like a duck to water. You instinctively knew what to do. So I'm kind of on the born side of the argument, but I do think, to be a humane leader, you've got to be constantly learning and being customized. You need your leadership skills fine-tuned. And so there is a lot of learning you still need to do, even as a quote unquote born leader. There's a lot of learning you need to do to polish those leadership skills. So I can support both arguments, but I kind of lean towards leaders are kind of more born and then customized through learning.
I see. Let me tell you something. Let me give you the perspective of someone who wasn't a leader, a child, and that I spoke, or maybe not spoke, but that I searched guidance into one of my friends. I'm an introverted guy. I have been since I was a child, and I will be until the day that I die. And with that in mind, when I was a child and I was with my friends, what I did was to search for that person who inspired me. Who, when I talked with this person, with his or her actions, it gave me peace of mind. It gave me that leadership that I was looking for. And I know that when we are kids, we want to play ball, we want to play hide and seek. There's no leadership at all. But in some sense, it is, because there's a bunch of guys, a bunch of kids. Hey, we want to play like right now, which is summer. We are in summer vacations. What are we going to do? Grab the bike and go there. You mentioned go to the pool. I don't know, something like that. And there was, I think, two kind of people. The ones that wanted to be a leader but wouldn't be a leader because they didn't have that charisma. They didn't push us towards the good stuff. And the ones that simply they had it. Maybe it was you, because when I approach one of these kids and I look at his gestures, how he stood, but most important, how he would interact with me, how his engagement with me and the other, and there was coherence. I found that this person, or that kid, was a leader to me, and he was born. I wasn't a leader back then, but using your words, was you mentioned that when there was a car crash and you had to do something and you put it out people, you were becoming a leader because you were giving some big important assignments to someone and putting it there out, and knowing that maybe you were 5 people and pointing out to one of them, the other people were okay. This guy is asking to this other one to do something, so they felt compelled to do it, but they also felt the pressure. So that is this kind of in that situation. Maybe I'm not um, I'm not aligned with you. I think it is a made leader situation that it was there. But let me tell you something about myself. As I told you, I've been an introverted guy, and I played volleyball many years, and I love that sport very much. And I remember well that we were playing against a team, and I was a position 5, and one of our teammates, which he was called La Muñeca, which the translation is going to be the doll. I don't remember what we call him, the doll. He was saying that he was the doll, but every time the other team served, the ball was aimed to that guy, but to his left side, and every time we lost that point. So I became a leader because I acknowledge the situation. I know the pattern that the doll was taken badly, and I approach him instead of my coach, and I say, Muñeca, you have to take a step back and go one to the left every time they serve. With that, you will receive the ball, and we began doing that. I think leaders are made when they acknowledge two things. First of all, that the situation is going badly, that it has to be a change. And the second one, instead of say this is not my stuff, someone else has to do it. No, you take action, as I did. So let me tell you, I became a leader at sports when I was an IC, you know, and then I became at some point a humane leader. So this is my case, but I think it could be replicated with many people around the world in many different life and work situations. No?
Yes, you definitely can teach a lot of leadership skills, right? And so in using the volleyball analogy, right, I would teach you to recognize the patterns, teach you some key ways to approach this player so that he doesn't feel, let's say, ashamed by his poor performance, right? Because he's always letting the point get by him. So we want to approach him in a way that he's open to some coaching. So I do believe we can make better humane leaders by I coach you with, don't approach him and say, you've missed that point again, you idiot. That's way on the far end of the wrong approach. Instead, you could say, hey, Paulie, boy, this is a rough game. We've missed 2 points from this guy serving already. Don't blame him. We missed 2 points already. Why don't you try something a little bit different? How about you try taking a step back and a step to the left and just see if it works? Not ordering him to do it, not like the accident situation.
Yeah.
In this situation, right, the humane coach is trying to help a person be successful. No placing of blame. Didn't say you lost us 2 points. He said we lost 2 points and we can do better. Hey, how about you try this, that, or the other thing, right? And I think that's how we coach and teach people and make better leaders. So I agree with you.
Yeah, one thing regarding volleyball, it is that after each point, either we lose or win, we gather and strong, and we fire up, or we don't point out, but we fire up. I approach him directly, and I didn't knock him. I didn't say something bad, but it was something that he required to know, because we yes, we are humane leaders, but we also belong to a community, to a tribe. And sometimes we require assistance, guidance. If someone approaches us and say, hey, dude, rather than say you're making these mistakes, I have seen this, I think it would be nice, not nice. It would be wise for you to do this. People will act differently, from heart, because this guy is approaching me because I could have I could in this case, I just have told my coach, "Hey, coach, this guy is doing something wrong." No, I wouldn't, because what I want from other people is to approach me in the same manner as I approach them, with guidance, with ideas, not making not making me feel bad about it, but good about it. So I think with this, uh, people who are not born made leaders to become made leaders by certain situations. But it isn't something that you are seeking out. It is something that appears, and you have to act like this. Let me tell you something. This week, I think it was on Monday, I was working. I'm in this office. We are 5 people, and I when I had one of my stroke candidates at my left ear, but I suddenly hear something, and I look around and I look to my right side, and there was this pure vine which fainted, and he was like this in his head. He was totally fade out. So I went directly to him and I asked him, Gerardo, where are you? I'm at the office. What is your name? I'm Gerardo. And because I wanted to see if he had a concussion. I'm not a doctor. I know I don't have the same training experience as you have, but I had to do something. And one of my peers that arrived from the other office, she froze out. She didn't know what to do, and it's okay. Maybe you don't know, but suddenly she said, "I had to run for help," and she went to help. And this guy, well, he went to the hospital. But I think those kind of situations, that was a live situation, but it could be the same at work. You find out that you're in a project and you have to deliver something, and maybe one of the team members, it isn't working at all. Rather than pointing out, dude, what is going on and everything, communicate easily. People are open and fun to do that.
Yeah, and ask them if they need some help. Or it seems like this should be done by now. Do you need some help? Is something wrong? Open where you're, not the official leader of the project kind of thing, and you're open and being a humane coworker and trying to approach them and help them. But it is, this is where I struggle. I've over the course of my career, I've had people in my teams, and they're when we would do performance reviews and talk about what do you want to be in the future, what kinds of things interest you. Any number of employees I've heard say, well, I eventually want to be the director of such and such, or the vice president of this or that, or whatever. And given at least of what I had seen of their output over multiple years, not just 1 year of working, because I stayed in the place a very, very long time, decades. So some of these people I knew for 10 years or more. And it just, given the amount of effort they had put into their own personal development to be a made leader, they were never going to achieve some of the goals that they were looking for. Maybe they just didn't have the aptitude for doing budgets, or they just hadn't mastered the skills to do a good performance review on someone whose performance was not up to what it needed to be, those coaching skills. I do believe you can make people much better at anything that they are with good training and coaching and mentoring. I do believe that anybody can get better at anything, whether it's leadership or coding or database administration or accounting or financial calculations, whatever it is. With good coaching, you can make somebody better. But there are certain people who will learn it better, do it better, be better at it kind of innately. So that's kind of that born side of the equation. And so at some point, the best leaders, I think, are a combination of they were born and had some innate skills, but they're also very driven to learn. They're very intelligent and they learn things very well, and they can execute some of these very tactical things like finance and accounting and so on better than everybody else. And so at some point, this pyramid of the hierarchy of the company, only certain people, because of their skills, their behaviors, their born skills, their trained skills that they practiced and took the time to learn very well, they get to the top of the pyramid. And then there's the other leaders who, I really want to be a leader, but they don't have the born skills and they don't work hard enough on the trained skills. Maybe they make good team leaders and maybe they'll make good managers, but they are not going to rise necessarily to the very tops of those pyramids for a combination of reasons, just not really good at performance reviews or terrible at budgeting. Well, if you don't have everything, at some point you reach the top of your career arc.
Yeah. Um, Let me tell you that you have spoken of those performance reviews that you had at UOP and Honeywell. And I remember that the last time that I had a performance review, the same as you, was when I used to work at a bank at mid-90s, a lot of time. And since 98, I've been working at startups. And one of the reviews that I had that brings the mid leader situation is when my CEO told me, "Hey, I'm going to do the performance review to you." "Ah, great." I went to his office with a notebook and he told me, "No, no, no, no. We're going to eat at a restaurant, a Japanese restaurant." "Well, okay, man, we'll go there." And we went to this restaurant here in Mexico City, which has a lot of a big Japanese garden, with a river and a bridge, and it was so calm. And he told me that to become a leader or to be a leader, it is not related to the position you have. You could be a leader even though your position doesn't has head, lead, manager, director, VP, chief. You could become one. And when he took me there, I remember well that he told me, I'm very fond of the Japanese culture and traditions, and I know that I made mistakes, so I go to this peaceful environment, and that suddenly I begin talking to myself, and suddenly some ideas arrive to me saying, "Dude, you're making this mistake," like the little ego. "Don't do that. Don't be like this." So I mentioned this because it's really important for you to understand, or for anyone to understand, that situations will rise, will become. Either you become a leader, or let someone else be this leader. But if you are in a management position, with reports, you have to provide a good example, because people will become leaders and humane leaders. It's not something of steps. First it's a leader, then humane leader. No, you could become a humane leader right away, only by watching and having coherence of the people who are surrounding you and becoming this. Let's say, for example, let's say that the situation arises, someone is screaming at you. Would that people become a leader? Heck no. I don't want to follow that people. But if a situation arises, if there is someone who calls me, does some actions and say, "You should do that, we should do that," we have to acknowledge that. You will say, "Oh my God, I want to become that." So with this in mind, being a calmer, maybe place if you to be. If not, take hold of everything that you have right now, all the ideas, all the knowledge, and act, and then you will become a leader.
Yes, I would agree. You hit two key things, I think. That reflection, humane leaders reflect and think about what they did in the past, what they want to do better, and they try and apply it in their life and in their work. Absolutely, completely agree. The other thing is the role models, looking around the other either peer leaders or people that are above you that are in positions that you think you might want to do, and you watch those leaders and how they lead. And you absolutely can learn a lot from both the really good leaders, and I
Mhm.
would argue you can learn even more from the really bad leaders, because I think to a degree sometimes the bad things that they do stand out more.
Oh,
And so you can, wow, I hope I never do that. Whether it's pound your fist on the table, whether maybe it's swearing. I grew up in a culture of very highly educated, sensitive engineering folks that were very science minded. I don't think I ever heard a swear word in my life that whole time at UOP. In Honeywell, there were a lot of leaders that swore a lot, to the point that I think if HR was listening in a hidden microphone, they probably would have fired a number of them. Different culture. They were more from New York. New York swears a lot more. It's more acceptable. I'm from the Midwest, engineering company. Swearing's not acceptable. If you swore in a meeting, you'd probably be talking to HR before the end of the day. But I learned from both situations, what kind of leader do you want to be like? Both from positive leadership, I want to emulate some of the things that they're doing, and bad leaders. Boy, I hope I never fall into the trap and do what that bad leader's doing.
yeah, totally agree. If I watch someone acting badly to our other people, I repel them. And I say, I won't be that person, you know? Because in the end, we're still learning by everyday situations, even though it might not be every day, but we're still learning, first of all, ourselves, if we're doing the correct stuff or not. And the other one, when we watch other people. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I think this topic could go many hours. But I think with this, maybe we could do the wrap up. Do you
Yep.
agree?
Certainly. It's a topic that I think we could talk many more times on, maybe with some specific examples that people can send in to us. Well, listen, thanks for joining us on another episode of How to Be a Humane Leader Without Losing Your Job. We hope our insights help you become a smarter and more strategic leader. Apply today's lessons to see the positive impact on your team and career. Catch all our episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and on YouTube. Join us next week as we discuss something trendy in the leadership world. Until then, stay humane and stay successful. See you later, Roberto.
Bye bye, Chris.